The Jaguar X308 Generation XJ, for me, is arguably the best iteration of the XJ saloon. Controversial, but I would say that what it possesses is the traditional blend of styling, but with modern V8 engineering, performance and luxury. Let's take it out on the road and see if what I think is actually true.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter.
On the face of it, it seems slightly crazy that Jaguar chose to replace the well-received X300 just 3 years after it was introduced. For me, the X300 was such the perfect iteration because it combined all that modern accoutrements from the XJ40, but they just did it in a more polished way. Everything about the 300 was pretty much where the XJ40 should have been when it was launched in '86. So yeah, it does seem odd that 3 years later, they basically replaced the X300 with this, the 308, the V8-powered XJ. The 308 was 30% different to the 300 that it replaced, so while it looked very similar to the outgoing car, there were some subtle changes. The front bumper is reprofiled and you'll notice oval indicators instead of rectangular ones, and the interior has been remodelled. It's got a much more curvaceous look and feel to it. It actually inherited some Ford switchgear, which owners of a Mark III Granada would be familiar with. And while some people might think that's a bit of a cop-out, it feels good, it feels well made and they work, so I personally have no problem with that. And the V8 powertrain is an interesting choice. Jaguar had made its name off of 6-cylinder cars, that XK engine that powered the E-Type and the Mark II, the Mark X saloon. That's what Jaguar was known for, and if it wasn't known for 6-cylinder cars, it was known for 12-cylinder cars. So why V8? Well, the American market liked V8s, and the American market was where Jaguar was really making its money. And in 1989, Toyota launched its luxury brand Lexus with a 4-litre V8 that was so gloriously smooth that most of its competitors, including Jaguar, thought they might try and replicate its sheer blend of smoothness, refinement and performance. One of the challenges was, however, is that Ford wasn't that keen on developing another engine. In fact, they'd only recently introduced their own all-alloy 4.6 V8 engine and was proposing to install that into the Jaguar XJ. But the engineers at Whitley managed to convince the bean counters that it was worth developing Jaguar's very own V8 engine on the grounds that the Ford unit wasn't powerful enough, wasn't refined enough and didn't live up to the characteristics required for a Jaguar saloon. So they invested heavily in what became known as the AJ26 engine, Jaguar's fourth engine in its entire life. And of course it debuted in the XK8 in March 1996. The XJ Saloon therefore got the V8 a year later, lighter than the outgoing AJ16 and yet was more powerful and more fuel efficient. But of course one of the fundamental bugbears of the V8 was its reputation for being somewhat unreliable, particularly in those first couple of years. There were three main problems. One was water pumps. Presumably in the interest of weight saving, it used a plastic impeller, which on some examples was known to crumble away, leaving you with no water circulation whatsoever, which then meant to overheating and of course then a destroyed engine. And if that wasn't going to get you, they also had plastic timing chain tensioners, which were also known to deteriorate, leaving you with a slightly unenviable situation of the timing chain skipping a tooth and again destroying the engine. But the other development, which did the engine and therefore the reputation of Jaguar no favours whatsoever, was a revolutionary new cylinder lining called Nickel. Safe to say it wasn't hugely successful. With certain applications of unleaded fuel with a high sulphur content, it was known to wear. What you lost then was a compression that could then lead to imminent engine failure. Jaguar were very good about it though. They did replace a lot of engines under warranty. Later models were upgraded with metal timing chain tensioners, metal propellered water pumps, and indeed Nickel had been jettisoned in favour of traditional bore liners. The 4-litre is definitely the one to go for, although the 3.2 V8 is no slouch. The 3.2 AJ16 engine feels a little bit sluggish. All the V8 engines felt suitably powerful enough, so sufficient on both power and torque. There was clearly no need for the V12 engine, which is why the 6-litre V12 had a fairly short life in itself. When the 308 was introduced, the 3.2 V8 model was a full £4,000 more expensive than the equivalent X300 model, which might have raised a few eyebrows. But The 4-litre XJ8, at just over £40,000 new in the UK, was around £10,000 cheaper than that much revered Lexus LS400 that they were all gunning for by that point. So the X308 was still relatively good value in that kind of context. The X308 didn't have a bad innings in the end, running for a full 6 years, during which time over 126,000 found homes all around the world. Come the turn of the noughties, however, Jaguar was already looking at replacing the 308. Don't forget, it's based on an XJ40 platform, which in itself was conceived in the late 70s. So they were developing the all-aluminium X350, which was due to come out in 2002, but there were some complications with the all-aluminium architecture of the X350, and that delayed ultimate on sale by about 12 months. So the X308 struggled on for about another year or more, which is why you'll also see a very last-minute facelift and trim upgrade in 2002. I really like the 308. For me, it's got that lovely combination of that traditional styling, but with modern electronics, modern V8 performance. For those people that like a Jaguar to look a certain way, drive a certain way, the 308 should definitely be on your list.
This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link in the video description to enter their latest competition.